everyone, welcome to Headlines of the Day. This is 3rd of March 2022 and we are back again with some of the major articles from the Hindu newspaper. In today's paper, there are many important topics from economy section. Let's begin our today's edition. On the very first page, you'll find an article from GS2 International Relations that says, India told to rush from the war-hit Kharkiv. Kharkiv is a city in Ukraine. So from this article, what are the major highlights you have to consider? You have to know about the United Nations General Assembly recent resolution in context of the Ukraine-Russia crisis. What is India's stand? And what is Operation Ganga? How does India's evacuation exercise faces a challenge? And what is the possible way forward? There is another article on page number 1 from the point of view of international relations only that says Jain Group seeks centre's nod to travel to Pakistan. So from this article, what are the major highlights you have to consider? How tensions and land border closure post-COVID between India and Pakistan impacted the religious pilgrimages between both the countries, and you have to suggest ways to handle it. Moving further, on page number 6 from GS2 Polity and Governance, you'll find an article that is headlined as Lines and Rules. The times may have come for clarifying the role and functioning of governor. From this article, what are the key highlights you have to take up are: what is the role of governor? What is the law on governor-state relations? Do we need to relook at the role of governor, and what are the best ways to resolve differences between governors and chief ministers? Let's move on to page number 6 itself from GS3 Economy section. You'll find an article that is headlined as Losing STEM. Now, this article revolves around to the latest GDP numbers and how the Ukrainian crisis can heighten the risk. So from this article, what are the key highlights? Some key features of the latest national income estimates of 2021-22 that is released by the National Statistics Organization. What are the implications arising from Ukraine crisis and what steps need to be taken in this particular context? Moving further, on page number 10, you'll find an article from GS2 International Relations that is headlined as India is a natural leader of Quad in the Indo-Pacific. So this article is pertaining the recent Milan exercise that is happening in Vizag, Visakhapatnam. So from this article, the major highlights you have to consider are: know about the exercise Milan, strategic importance of Indo-Pacific and how Quad countries are cooperating in the Indo-Pacific region. Moving further, on page number 10, you'll find an article from GS3 Science and Technology. The article says, clear roadmap for 5G auction, says the Prime Minister. Now from this article, you'll get to know about the union budget allocation for science and information technology and why the budget laid emphasis on sunrise sectors. Now, these sunrise sectors such as artificial intelligence, geospatial systems, drones, semiconductors, space technology, genomics, pharmaceuticals, and clean technologies, and the 5G. We have also seen a lot of emphasis being laid in the current budget on these particular fields. Moving further, on page number 12, you will find an article from GS3 Economy section that talks about trade deficit widens to $21 billion again as its imports climb 35%. From this article, you have to consider what is the trade deficit, why the trade deficit widened recently, and impact of trade deficits. Further on, what can be the possible measures forward? There is another article on the same page from GS3 Economy section that is headlined as Banks fret as sanctions stall Russia trade settlements. So there was a meeting of RBI with selected banks to assess the lenders' exposure. From this article, the key highlights you have to consider are: what are the ramifications of sanctions imposed on Russia following its invasion on Ukraine for Indian banks? And how are the businesses and governments adapting to these changes? And what is the possible way forward? Moving on page number 12 itself, there are two more articles from GS3 Economy section that are headlined as February Manufacturing PMI signals upstick in output. So from this article, you have to consider what is the IHS Market Purchasing Managers Index, that is the PMI. There is another article on the same page itself that talks about oil spikes as Russian supply concerns rise. So this article talks about sanctions on Russian banks. The key highlights to consider from this article are: why are the oil prices rising? How does it impact currency and the economy? How do high oil prices impact the consumers? What can be the impact on investor sentiment and markets? And what can be the possible way forward? So that is a wrap of today's headlines of the day. I hope you liked the video. For regular updates, you can follow us on our social media handles. And for more such videos, do stay tuned to the Next IAS YouTube channel.